My next guest agrees that Mexico is a mafia state. He says the war on drugs is a fake war. Pretty controversial stuff, considering that for more than a decade, Antonio Maria Costa was the director of the UN's Office on Drugs and Crime. Joining me this evening from Geneva, this book not only seeks to explain how the drug trade works, Antonio, but also claims that the Mexican government has been, and possibly still is, actively colluding with the cartels. Do you have evidence to substantiate these claims?
Yeah, sure. But I would like to be careful not to talk about Mexican government. That is a very comprehensive terms. Certainly, the federal government is trying very hard, but by the constitution of Mexico is such that it allows the states and the local administration a good deal of responsibility, including in fighting counter-narcotics. And that is where the corruption problem is. Local police, local administrator, mayors, states, municipalities are really the big problem, more than the federal government. So we need to separate the power as it is distributed in a country like Mexico.
All right, I know that you've talked about 4 pillars to this problem, one of which is corruption. Just give me a sense of the other 3 and what you believe needs to be done next.
Well, about corruption, before going to the other 3 pillars, I think that Annabel Hernandez got it right when she said what is going on in Mexico is not a war on drugs. It's actually a war between drug cartels, with Mexican authorities siding with one or another cartel, depending who pays the most. So we have to really de-emphasize the whole notion of war on drugs and focus more on corruption. But that would be my first pillar. The second pillar, which I would say is the most serious indictment about the banking system, leaving aside what happened in the crisis in 2008 and beyond, is that the huge amounts of money laundering going on through legitimate channels to very well-established bank. The Wachovia Bank case, you may recall, indicted in 2010 and found guilty for laundering several hundred, $466,000 billion into the United States. The same Citibank, the same, more recently, HSBC, the most prestigious names in banking involved and colluding.
Antonio, okay, let me just stick with money laundering for the time being, because your experience is so important when you talk about this. When you talk about money laundering and the sort of money that is being made by the cartels in the States and being laundered allegedly into the United States, the money being made in Mexico, how much are we talking about? Are we talking about tens, if not hundreds, of billions of dollars here?
The Wachovia Bank case, they were indicted for $468 billion. An amount of money which is just beyond imagination and is a several percentage point of the equivalent of Mexican exports.
I know that Annabel has said this dirty money is effectively moving around and in some cases supporting economies around the world. This collaboration goes much further than just the Mexican authorities. Is that what you're saying?
Definitely, and it is obviously beyond just drug trafficking. It's criminal money, but the bulk of it is indeed obtained by cartels through the drug trafficking into the United States. And that leads me to the second problem, the second pillar, if you wish, since you mentioned 3, the continuing demand for drugs from the United States. I mean, the tragedy of Mexico, the 100,000 people killed, and all the violence and the crimes are related to the fact that demand for narcotics persists in the United States. More than 20,000 tons of cocaine are being consumed annually, and that is a...
All right, and I've heard you say that before, and I know the last pillar that you've talked about is legal weapons sold in the US, and these have become the firepower for the Mexican drug cartels. Question to you, we've had Kofi Annan and a plethora of Latin American former presidents saying now, let's put an end to this war on drugs, let's legalize or decriminalize and put this in the public health sphere. You don't agree with that, I know. Why?
No, you are not right, and I'm sorry to correct my interviewer.
Go on.
I am certainly in agreement with the notion of not criminalizing or penalizing addicts. They are sick people who need to put in a hospital and not in prison. But certainly I am very tough and hard on traffickers, on those who extract thousands of millions, billions of dollars out of the suffering and the pains of those who are indeed addicted.
So,
two different problems.
And I stand corrected, and I don't take offence by any stretch of the imagination. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. And